In lesson number 2, we went over how to multiply by 1, and we also focused in on the commutative property of multiplication. Let's take a moment and review that over. If, for instance, we have 1 times 7, we know that our answer is going to be, what's the number that's not 1, which is 7, right? One group of 7 is just a group of 7. One times 9, the answer will be 9. Commutative property of multiplication. Let's review that very, very briefly. Our commutative property said that if we have two numbers that are being multiplied, we can switch the order of the two numbers if we would like. And so what I'm going to do is move the 4 up to the front, and then the 7 goes to the back. That's our commutative property of multiplication. Now let's suppose that it's Christmas time and you received a bag of gumballs in your stocking. And suppose you wanted to count how many gumballs we have in the bag. Well, one way that you can do that is you can just go ahead and start counting like you usually would. Take a moment, pause. Okay, what I wanted to do is I want to show you an unusual way, a strange way of counting the gumballs. This strange way is called skip counting. Reason I want to introduce this to you right now is because skip counting is something you're going to want to know about. To count the gumballs, here's what we can do. We can go like this. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Hopefully you found that there were 16 gumballs inside the bag. Skip counting is very, very important to master. And later in this lesson, we are going to focus on it in a big way. But first, let's start with our first topic. How do we multiply by 0? Let's begin with these multiplication problems. I want you to go ahead and copy these down, and I want you to try these on your own right now. Please pause the video. Very good. Let's go ahead and go through these. This means 0 groups of 2. Because it's groups of 2, I'm going to draw a group of 2. But I have no groups, so I got to erase it. What do I have? I have nothing up here, so that's 0. Let's try this next one. 0 groups of 3. If I draw a group of 3, but I don't have a group, then I have nothing. So this is 0 or nothing. 0 groups of 4. What do you think that should be? That will be 0 also. Now, one thing that I want you to notice is what is happening in these problems. So I want you to think about this question. What do you notice about the answers to this problem? Well, I think it's very clear. The answers are all 0. But here's the question. Why? Why are the answers all 0? I want you to pause the video and think about it. Think about how you built your groups. All right. Hopefully you figured out that the answers are all 0. Why? Because we have no groups. We don't have anything. And so this is an easy multiplication type of problem to do. Let me give you 3 to try. I want you to go ahead and try these right now. Pause the video, please. Very good. Let's take a look at these. 0 groups of 7 should be 0. Answer is always 0. 0 groups of 8 should be 0. Answer is always 0. But the last one is a little bit different. 9 groups of 0. There are a lot of ways to handle this, but one way we can think about it is let's use our commutative property and switch these. If we switch them, we have 0 groups of 9. And it looks just like these with the 0 coming first. 0 groups of 9 is going to end up being just like these. It'll be 0. All right, very good. Let's continue now with multiplication by the number 2. This is going to be our first step into skip counting. And like I mentioned, skip counting is really the way, one of the best ways, in my opinion, to learn your multiplication facts. Let's go ahead and begin right here. Here we have one group of 2. We know a group of 2 looks just like this. So one group of 2, here we have one group, that'll be 2. We already knew it because with 1, it's the other number. Let's try this, 2 groups of 2. Well, here we have one group of 2. Let's add another group of 2 right up here to this picture. And so we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4. 3 groups of 2. Well, here we have 2 groups of 2. So let's add another group of 2 to the diagram. And we have a total of 6 dots altogether, 6. So far we have 2, 4, 6. As we multiply 2 by 1, 2, and 3. Now, some of you may already have been exposed to the fact that we can come up with these numbers 2, 4, and 6 by doing what's called skip counting. Let's try that here. Skip counting basically means that we start at a number. We start at any number, and we go up by that same number. Now, we can keep going on here forever, but what I want to do is I want to skip count by 2s. That means that I'm going to start right here. I'm going to start at the number 2. But then I need to go up by 2. What does that mean? Well, if I go up by 1, I'm going to go to 3. But I got to go up by 2. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to skip 3 and I'm going to go right to 4. And that's going to be my next number. So I go 2, 4. After that, skip 5, go right to 6. After 6, skip 7, and I think you have the idea. We keep going, and we can actually keep going on until the cows come home. Now, with that being the case, what we have here is a new way of counting numbers that is going to be so helpful when we multiply by 2. Our numbers are 2, 4, 6, 8. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, how do I remember all this? And the answer is just practice. For instance, you can think to yourself, and you can clap along, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can think of yourself as skipping every other number. Now, there are other ways to do this too. And ultimately what happens is we come up with a pattern that looks like this. 2. And I'm going to think of the comma as being the next number 3. And so if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what number comes after 5? 6. Go right down to the comma. 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I want you to finish the rest of this on your own, please. It should not take long. So please pause the video. All right, let's see how you did. Here we have 10, so I'm going to go 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and we can go even further, 21, 22. The list goes on and on. Now, here is the thing that you may or may not be aware of. When we learn to skip count, what happens is we are actually learning our multiplication facts in this way. The number 2 here, what we can say is that this is really one group of 2, or 1 times 2. The next one is going to be, because we added 2 more onto here, we'll have 2 groups of 2. 2 times 2. 1 times 2, 2 times 2. Here we have 3 times 2, and the pattern goes on and on. And if you don't look 5 times 2 here, you could think of this as being 2 times 5. That's our commutative property, right? And so right here, what we have are the answers to all of these multiplication problems, as long as we know how to skip count. Let's go ahead and write down a very important fact. These numbers right here, all of these numbers together, from 2 to 22, going on forever, these numbers are called even numbers. Let me write that down. And that'll be something important for us to always, always remember. Second of all, let's go ahead and try a little bit of practice. We'll try these right here. If we're given the problem 3 times 2, as long as you have this list right here, well, you can just look up here and go 3 times 2 is 6, and you don't need to do a whole lot of thinking. However, I don't want you to ever do that. I don't think anybody wants to carry a list of numbers like this around in their pocket. So another way of approaching this is to go ahead and skip count. Now, the first time you skip count, I don't recommend this for everybody, but the first time you skip count, you may want to go ahead and think about using your fingers. For instance, if you're going to do 3 times 2 or 3 groups of 2, what you can do is you can skip count down, you can skip count right down your list, and you can go 2, 4, 6. See, that's my 3, and that's my 3 groups. And because I landed at the 6, my answer is 6. If you're doing 5 groups of 2, say you're doing 5 times 2, then you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll be right there. All right. Let's go ahead and practice a little bit. If 3 times 2 equals 6, 2 times 3, well, by the commutative property, should that be the same answer? Of course it will be. Let's go ahead and do some more. Let me go ahead and give you some other examples to try on your own. So you may want to get ready to pause it. Okay, I want you to go ahead and copy these down. Then I want you to try these, and then we'll go through these together. Please pause it. Very good. Let's go ahead and go through these. 4 groups of 2. I'm going to skip count by 2. I'm not going to look at my list. I'm going to think to myself, 2, 4, 6, 8. The answer is 8. Now, if it's 2 times 4, same answer, commutative property. Let's take a look at the next one. 2 times 7, 2 groups of 7. Well, if I look right here, I don't have 2 times 7, but I do have 7 times 2. And that's a big clue. However, we don't want to look at the list. So when I see 2 times 7 in my head, I think about 7 times 2, and I count by 2s. I count 7 2s. So I'm going to skip count in my head. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. I ended at 14. So the answer here, 14 for both. Last one. Let's take a look at the last one. Two groups of 0. Well, that's a fun one. We all know if we multiply by 0, the answer is going to be 0, of course. So 2 times 0 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0 again. Let's take a moment and recap. Very important here. When we multiply by 0, for instance here, answer is always 0. If we multiply by 2, a great tool is to learn to skip count. What I strongly recommend is that you practice this through, and you'll have some chances to practice this through on the worksheet. After a while, it's going to get easier and easier, but it does take work, that's for sure. Now I believe you are ready for the worksheet, the practice worksheet for lesson number 3. Please give that your very best effort. And then next time what we're going to do is we will focus in on our next multiplication facts.